And also, since I'm managing the entire legal team, I really had to think holistically about the needs and filling the gaps. And so my first step always of team building is to assess talent and figure out what is needed, right? And I think the critical item is just ensuring you have trusted leads who I can delegate major work streams to. You cannot do it all yourself. You just can't. And so you need to have folks that are really strong under you. And my goal always is to either hire or develop talent and ensure that folks are better and smarter than me and can take on the lead on complex initiatives. And at Reddit, as I mentioned earlier, corporate and commercial areas were the main priorities, since I had large gaps there, like due to attrition and also the business need. And especially on the corporate side, that was very much outside of my wheelhouse. I had never done corporate work before, and I didn't really quite know what was needed. And I had to dive in myself on a whole bunch of the corporate work streams just because we just didn't have folks to do the work. And it was such a great learning experience and gave me a better sense of what I needed to hire for. Next, I look holistically at my team and just making sure that folks are in the right roles and where their skills and experience and interests lay. And Iris, I learned a lot of that from you and how you always manage team and think about career, and you think about how your team is situated. And as part of that, you often also have to make the hard decision to make org changes and to better adapt to the company's needs. And my focus also always on org planning is not to organize around individuals, but instead really focus on what the company's needs are. And I know that's always harder, but I think it gets to a better outcome. One other thing I wanted to just touch upon is just remote hiring and team building. I've experienced this now twice. It is much more challenging, right? Like both like getting to know folks and also just team building and hiring generally. One thing that I really love to do, especially on the hiring side, and I learned this from Coinbase, is really doing presentations for more senior roles. And this is basically where candidates need to do a 30-minute presentation on a topic in front of a panel. And that just gives you so much insight into, when you can't do live interviews, it gives insight into presentation skills. And I took this over to Reddit with me, and I think it continues to be an extremely valuable tool. And then for existing team members, just getting to spend as much time in person with them, I think that is just key. You just can't do it otherwise. Iris, I know you had a slightly different challenge when you started at Airbnb. You had flat headcount and you inherited a team that needed to be reorganized. So how did you build your team, and how have you had to adapt it over the years?
Yeah, as you mentioned, like I had flat headcount. The company had just gone through a major RIF because of the impact of COVID, and so I had to kind of work with what I had. And, one of the things I tried to do very quickly was and prioritize was just kind of getting to know the work and getting to know the people. And so I spent a lot of time identifying projects to work with individuals on the team directly with, not just, working with my direct reports all the time and learning about things from them, but really kind of rolling up my sleeves and doing the work alongside team members on some key initiatives that I knew were impactful for the company. So for instance, our extenuating circumstances policy is a pretty important one for Airbnb. It governs like when Airbnb will kind of step in and cover guests and hosts for unforeseen cancellations. And so I had to within my first 2 weeks, work on a presentation for the executive team with somebody on my team who was working on that, and just kind of whip that into shape, but also understand the policy. It was a great exercise for me. And then, I also was dealing with a lot of, there were people who were leaving. So there was attrition that I was dealing with. So I had backfills that I had to fill pretty quickly. I was able to bring in some talent from outside and also promote from within. So my leadership team or direct reports today looks very different than the team that I had inherited. And, you know, one of the things that I think became very clear to me in that experience was just the importance of hiring general athletes. If you don't need specialized knowledge, like, you know, let's say you're running a payments or a fintech, of course you need people who come in with that knowledge probably to be able to function well from the beginning. But I would say I get a lot of more mileage by handling or hiring really good general athletes, especially when you're in a space like tech or like a company like Airbnb where things are constantly changing. Initiatives come up, initiatives get sunsetted. You need people who are flexible and adaptable and can do well in whatever position you put them in.